it's Ren, she's got something to say. Pull up a chair, cause it's Renton Day. From the silly to the deep and everything between. She's the queen of real talk, no filter, no sheen.
Hey guys, and welcome back to Rants with Ren. I'm here today with the life of Dilly, and we're going to get into some fun topics around BDSM and Kink, some more Dom and sub dynamics, and maybe even talk about a little bit of OnlyFans work as well. How are you doing today, Dilly?
I am fabulous. It's a beautiful day here in Southern California. A little overcast, but I'll take it over rain any day. So yeah, I'm great. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. A topic that's been coming up a lot on my page and with my followers is just a lot of more interest in the BDSM world. What I'm finding is a level of curiosity and a little bit of maybe fear of the unknown. And it's interesting because in my space on social media, it's everywhere, right? Because we build the algorithms that we have brick by brick. So talk to us a little bit about kind of how you got started in the space, the role that you play for yourself in your own relationships, and we'll go from there.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I appreciate you for having me. And I think, when it comes to kink, kind of BDSM, kind of all those things kind of wrapped together, is you have to figure out, it's not just like a one size fits all, right? So there's a whole way to kind of venture into the space. And I think it's first with learning about it, right? Like watching videos, having conversations about it, and just figuring out kind of what you might enjoy, right? Just like seeing what other people have tried, maybe you trying it, right? And then just kind of going from there. I more or less got started with it I'm 31. For most of my life, I was just traditional when it came to just like kind of like sexual experiences and that like relationship dynamics and all that. It was all very much just like black and white, right? It was very like traditional, very vanilla, which is fine, which is what a high majority of the people out there have. And it wasn't until I would say like my last relationship with my previous partner that I started kind of explore a little bit more about that, more about like trying the whole kind of kink stuff. And it more or less started with like just simple name calling, right? Like her calling me daddy, and that's all she ever called me, right? And even though, which we can talk about as well, with my social media kind of presence, Instagram, and I used to do TikTok back in the day, and with OnlyFans a little bit now, like there are a lot of, men that call me daddy. And that's just kind of, I think, where almost like she took it from. And I would say like even before her and I like dating, like there was some presence of like whenever I was with like a partner or with like having experience with a woman, that there was always like something a little bit more than just a little vanilla, but it was never classified as like kink, right? So, and it wasn't until like she was in my life and she had experienced some of this stuff before that I started to kind of learn about a lot of those dynamics, right? I would say that there's levels to kink. There's like certain levels of like people that, want to be domed or want to be a sub all the time and just don't ever want to turn that off, right? And there's people who just want it like a little bit of time, who just like, hey, I want it like once a month. I want to go full experience, and I just want to kind of like I want to just do that and have that and just go about my normal life. So I think there's like a nice balance between figuring out what you're seeking and how you want to go about seeking it. So, yeah, I mean, that's more or less my like first take on that. But for me now, it's like, I'm not super, like, I'm not anything crazy on the side of kink related stuff. Like, I think like praise is really good. I think like being able to have a good dom sub dynamic, maybe if you're a switch, like communicating that, right? And I will always preach communication in the kink space, because consent is the number one it's the number one thing that you have to practice when you are doing this stuff.
Absolutely.
It's always something you have to practice. And that's what I always try to preach as well. So
yeah, it's really important. And like for anyone listening, that is the key. Communication is everything to make sure that you're aligned. A lot of people aren't totally aware of what they even are curious about in the space. What I'm finding is so many people haven't even fully explored their own desires to be able to then communicate them to a partner or a potential future partner, let alone someone you've been dating in a vanilla environment for like, let's say 3 to 5 years or something.
Yeah.
All of a sudden you have thoughts and you're like, I don't want to even bring them up. The other person might be thinking the same thing, but it's intimidating.
Yeah, and the thing too is what I've experienced is I've experienced people who have been in relationships for a year, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, and it's just by having communications with people. And the reason I've had these communications is more recently in the last couple of months, I have been posting on my social media like 3 ways on how to be a pleasure dom, right? 3 things to say as a dom, like what you want to hear, what you want to do as a sub, right? Just like honestly for fun, but like the feedback I've been getting has been like, oh, thank you so much. Like this is like, I've always been unsure because my partner likes to be a sub, but I'm like unsure on what to say. I'm unsure on how to explore that dynamic. And for me, I am just putting it out there, things that I've done that like my past partner and, you know, other people I've experienced, you know, kind of like kink related, you know, consensual sexual experiences with are what they like to hear as well, what they like to hear, what they like to feel, what they want to embrace as well. And that's where a lot of that comes into play of like knowing, and not even knowing, just like finding out what you want, right? Finding out what those desires. And going back to what I was saying with the whole people in 1, 3, 5, and 10 year experiences, they feel like there's fear that's wrapped around not knowing or not exploring, not even sure. Well, if I ask my partner for this, like, what if they just turn me down, right? They're stuck in like, I call it almost like a jail cell with their partner. And it's just constant banging heads all the time. I mean, I'm not saying every relationship is like this. There's plenty of relationships out there that are, you know, that are very type A. They're very just like, yeah, this is how we do it. Like, we might only have sex once a month or once every 6 months, or we do have sex, you know, once a day, whatever, but it's just very basic to the norm, which is totally fine. If you're happy and your desires are fulfilled, that's what matters most. I think a lot of people, they have these desires that are inside of them that they want, but they don't know how to express it with their partner, right? Yeah. So it's like, there's 2 things you can kind of do. It's either you express your desires and you tell, if you're in a relationship, like you're in a monogamous dynamic relationship, you tell your partner like, hey, I want to experience these things with you. Like, I want to try new things. I want to break out of just I'll just call it like almost like the one-way missionary method. And I want to try like these new things, you know, and see what they say, right? It's either going to go 1 or 2 ways. They're going to say like, yes, I'm down, or no, right? I'm not comfortable with that. And then you have to make a decision, like, you know, like how do you kind of go about that? And that's up obviously for you to decide, but you have to communicate. I will always preach, like I literally just made a reel this morning. It's like, number 1, it was like a 5-second reel. I said, what is the number 1 way to be an amazing lover is you have to communicate. Well, I didn't say it like that. I said, effing communicate is what I said, which is like the most simple way to put it, because most people don't. Most people, they'd rather just have anger towards their partner or have jealousy or have like no emotion at all, resentment, right? Than to actually express like, hey, I want to, like, can we, and it doesn't just come in forms of kink, it comes in forms of like all different parts of a relationship as well. So it comes in the forms of like, if you have kids, like managing with the children, like managing time scheduling with the jobs, like managing like or like doing things outside of the norm, like vacations, hang out with friends. Like communication is the number one thing that us humans have over almost every other species out there, where we can use our brains and use our words to facilitate and to express the things that we want and the things that we kind of need, I guess, in our lives. So
yeah, and I think there's a beautiful crossover if communication is an area of growth or improvement in anyone's current relationship. This is a beautiful way to do that because it will bleed into other areas. 9 out of 10 times, if you're with a loving and supportive partner, that part's really important because if you're with someone who doesn't meet your emotional needs anyways, then this isn't going to align. But if you are with someone who loves you, cares about you, and hears you, 9 out of 10 times when you come to a partner and say, hey, I saw this, whether it was like watching videos or reading a smutty book, I read about it and it came up for me and I'm interested in trying it because like leave it to the fiction fairy books, like it will bring up some shit, and you bring that to your partner, like 9 out of 10 times they're at least going to hear you out, if not be willing to try it. Especially, I mean, again, if you're with someone who loves and cares about you, they're going to want to meet your sexual needs. That's you know.
And you see the most dynamic relationships that are out there, they know how to have those talks. They know how to express. And that's one thing that like I have developed over the past, like I would say like 2 years now, is, or even a couple years too, is like I've always been someone where if something is wrong, which most people do, if something is wrong, you just shut off, right? If something's wrong, I just shut off. I don't get angry. I don't throw temper tantrums. That's just not who I am. I just shut off. I don't want to talk about it. I just like, right. If something bothers me, I'm just completely shut off. But one thing that I worked a lot with my previous partner was, you know, on both sides, her with me and me with her, is like, if something is wrong, whether it's work related, whether it's relationship related, whether it's like friendship related, whatever, right? Then I'm going to do what I can and do my best to bring that up and be like, let's talk about it. Like, what do you need? Do you want, because I think in a lot of times with situations like with that, and I know we're kind of getting off kink topic a little bit, but we can reel back in. The biggest thing is like, is do you need comfort or do you want a solution? Right? That's the biggest thing with a lot of people who deal with like any type of issue when it comes to like maybe their emotions are figured away. Like, what do you need right now? Do you want to be comforted? Do you just need do you want like a hug? Do you want a kiss? Do you want just to feel loved? Or do you want to find a solution to the problem? You know, a lot of people, they have these conceptions of just like, I don't want a solution to the problem. I just want to talk about my problems. And I think a lot of people are in that range of like, which you see a lot. I mean, anywhere, if you walk anywhere in public, whatever, you hear, a lot of times all you hear about, a lot of gossip, a lot of people talking about their problems, right? Problems don't go away on their own most of the time. Sometimes they need to be fixed. So it's like, how you fix that? You have to find a way to solve them, right? So, but that all comes into the whole communication point. And then I guess if we're to kind of reel it back together, it's just that's how like dynamic relationships and dynamic friendships and all that and dynamic businesses are ran is through that communication point. Bringing it back full circle into kink, right? When it comes to desires, when it comes to trying new things, when it comes to let's just say you have a partner, right? And you are a sub, and you tell your partner like, hey, I want to be treated this way. I want to be like, I don't know, like I want you to treat me like a pet, right? In this, like I want to have an experience where I am just like, almost like a, like, not, what's the word I'm looking for? I want to be like your, like, I want to serve you, right? I want to
like
be your
at
servant.
your
I want to serve you.
disposal.
Exactly, right? So it's like you can't just go into that right away and expect them to act a certain way. You have to communicate with them and tell them like, okay, you know, the dom or whoever it is, your partner needs to know like, how can we make this happen for you, and how can we make it happen for me, so that we're both, so I'm not like one doing it the wrong way, even though it's going to take a little bit of practice to kind of get in that role. But how can I facilitate this to make this experience like new, and like, how can I make it fun, right? How can we make this, because at the end of the day, kink is supposed to be like fun. It's supposed to be explorative. It's supposed to be something that gets you out of like your just daily, like straight line, very just, going to work and eating breakfast and talking with your friends. Like it's almost this way of just like, let's try this new firework and see what happens, So
Yeah. What, on that note, actually, I was going to ask you, for you specifically, I think we all gain something different and unique from whatever level of kink we have or BDSM lifestyle.
yeah.
For you specifically,
Yeah.
like not generalizations, but for you, what do you get from being a dom?
So for me, I mean, I do a really good job of, I can switch back and forth between, I guess you can say, like pain and pleasure, or like praise and degrading, right? Like that's where the communication comes to the part, like asking the person I'm with, what do you want in this moment? Like, what do you want? Sometimes it can naturally go there. Sometimes it can naturally go there and they can go back and forth, but ask them, like, what do you want right now? Like, do you want to be praised? Do you want to be like taken care of and like loved? Or do you want to be degraded? Do you want to be in a situation where you just need to be, as I like to call, like consensually beat up? Like, do you want to be like thrown around a little bit, right? And for me, I love, it gets me off to like provide for the person I'm with and create the best experience that I can. Like almost like one of my love languages, I guess you can say, is gift giving, right? So like I'm giving I think in the dom subspace, I'm giving the gift of like full enjoyment, like hopefully multiple orgasms, like laughter, smiles, just like an amazing time. Like, for example, I used to work in the wine industry, and whenever I used to like, acquire like really, really amazing, incredible wines, and I would bring them to a dinner, I'd bring them to a friend's house, and people would enjoy, and like my friends would enjoy those wines. Like whenever I would see them enjoy these wines and like have them go like, oh my God, this wine is incredible. It's amazing. Like that, I'm just like, ooh, like that feels so good. Like, or if I make a dinner and someone's like, oh, like that, this steak dinner you made is off the rails. Like it's so good. Like that is like, that's like a mini orgasm in its own, right? So for me, it's like I said, going back to what I was saying, it's the gift giving of pleasure. Like the gift giving of like, how can I make this moment, how can I make this experience just absolutely incredible to the best way possible? And knowing like, if there's anything that's off, talk to me. Like, what's off? What do you want? Like, what do you need? Like, do you want, like, sometimes there have been experiences in the past where I started off just like being kind of rough and all that, and then I had to divert and go back towards being like a lover and being and giving pleasure and all that, because the connectivity and the balance was just off. So being able to come back here and going like, okay, like, because sometimes the biggest thing with kink, and the biggest thing, especially with the degrading part on the dom subs like space, is you have that connection has to be there. A lot of times, like if you go in and go, okay, you ready? Like, let's do this. And you just start like being very aggressive and all that. It's you, and know that, this, right? Like, you're going to be like, oh, I don't, like, as a sub, you're going to be like, I don't enjoy this because I'm not connected with this person, right? The biggest thing is like, it's just another person that's just like almost being aggressive, or just being like maybe taking it out on you or whatever. And you're just like, oh, I don't like this. Like, it doesn't feel right to me. It doesn't feel connected. So I think the biggest thing, is that connection, like when you are experiencing those things. So.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I'm hearing you say that for you, what you get out of it is the joy of providing, which I think is really beautiful, and leads into like a lot of other areas. But in regards to the sub side of things, and everyone's different, right? Like it's very interesting and unique, and I am curious to know what kind of questions this brings up for people who are vanilla when they hear these conversations, because the way, like, I don't actually enjoy degradation at all. Some people love it, and that's
Mhm.
totally amazing, and that's their thing. But to your point, I cannot sub for someone that I do not fully trust.
Yeah.
Like, I actually can only engage in that level of intimacy, and it is intimacy. Like, people, I think, confuse it with like whips and chains. It's like
Yeah.
deep trust, and as you said, connection. Some
Yeah.
people can do it with people they're not partnered with, and that's fine too and beautiful. For me, it has to be somebody that if there's not a committed partnership, there's a level of like trust and bond and connection and
Yeah.
understanding. And even then, that's still a little like gray area for me. But yes,
Yeah.
it's fully about, I trust you so much with my body, my mind, my soul, that I'm able to give you my
Yeah.
full self. And that for me translates into the way I show up in dating with that person, in love in general, in friendships, obviously not like that separate from anything sexual, of course, but
Yeah.
like that level of trust, a lot of us only have that in friendships or only have that with family. When you can find that in a romantic partnership, it's so beautiful. And then to be able to say, like, take all of me.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, I've truly ever only had that with two people in my life.
Yeah.
And when it happens, it's a beautiful, beautiful thing. And then you're able to explore and say, like, what else can we try? What limits can we push here?
Yeah.
Because I know if I fall, you're going to catch me. I
Yeah.
know if you push the limit too far and like something gets a little too painful or something gets a little too triggering, like we're going to stop it and like start from scratch, and you're a safe
Yep.
place to land.
And that's where I've like done like in my past relationship with my previous partner is there were times when we were starting to push and push and push in that space. And I like we just communicated. She's just like, I feel something off. I'm like, okay, boom, stop. Like, let's connect, right? Like and then what we did is just came together close. We held each other and said, hey, be okay. Let's check in. Let's be present. What's going on? You know, and it might take like, hey, let's just take a 5-minute break. Let's get something to drink, right? Let's get
Mhm.
something to drink. Let's go, you know, let's maybe get a snack. Let's go use the bathroom, whatever, right? And then when you come back, let's just connect. Let's just cuddle. Let's just maybe kiss each other, right? And just be together, right? We don't have to go back to the full, like, we don't have to have sex. We don't have to, I would always tell you this too. I was like, we don't have to, you know, jump right back into it. I was like, let's just be together. Like, let's just, all I want to do is connect with you. I want to look at you. I want to be here with you. I want to be here with you, right? I want to be here with you. And then like a lot of times after that connectivity, it just blended into something like way better than if we tried to push it on the front end, right? If we tried to push it
Totally.
on like okay, like it's not connection. Well, trust me, like it's gonna be great. Let's just keep going, right? It's like, no, you time out.
Yeah.
Let's take a
Reset.
time out. Take a time out. Like any sport, football, basketball, the play's going wrong. It's not working. You're down 10 points.
Dilly,
You gotta take a
don't
break.
lose the female listeners. Don't lose the female listeners with this analogy. But yes,
Anyways,
yes, a reset. Yeah.
but yeah, you need to reset, and you need to go back to like, okay, let's come together, right? And then once you come together, and there have been times where like you come together, you know, and we're like, you know what, like maybe just right now is just not the time to get into that. Let's just hang out. Let's just hang out, and maybe let's go for a walk somewhere. Let's go do something. Let's work, whatever. But sometimes, like most of the time, when we reset and we basically hit like start over, you know, you're like, okay, let's go back to let's just connect. Then it turns into something where like, okay, now we're going to go into it. And then we go into like full, like Dom sub mode, and it's like super connected. It's awesome. It's amazing. There's intensity, there's passion, like there's just drive. And when the session's over, we look at each other and we go, like, we're glad we took a pause. We're glad that we were able to just take a step back, you know?
Yeah.
But that's huge. I think that's huge. And I think that a lot of people who want to experience this, like, need to understand that moments like that are going to happen. Like, you might picture, like, okay, you know, this person's going to come over. We're going to maybe have a glass of wine. We're going to talk about it and we're going to get right into it. Well, a lot of times, you know, let's just say it's not a random person, but someone you connected with, right? We're going to have some connection. We're going to get right into it. Well, sometimes it doesn't work out like that. So you need to be aware and you need to evaluate the situation, kind of how it goes, you know, to make the best experience that you can. So, but yeah, that's just my personal experience with I think doing like, going off what you're saying, like connecting with somebody who you can trust and you can be vulnerable with is huge. Because a lot of times I feel like there's people out there who might go, okay, I want to go experience like kink, and I'm just gonna go find someone random person, and 99 times out of 100, it's not gonna work. It's not gonna play out how you want it to play out. You know, there has to be some sort of, I think, connection there to explore that, unless you find someone that is already in that space and they're experienced in this. And there's apps, there's groups, all this stuff. Like, there's clubs you can go to. You can find someone in that space, because then what that does is that can accelerate the path towards finding someone who is in that kind of realm. But even then, even when you do find that person, you have to get to know them, because not every person is the same, right? So
Totally. I have two things coming up for me right now. One is about a common misconception, I think, about the providing aspect. And I just want to have this said for any of my male listeners out there. You know what? Actually, anyone, because being a Dom is not exclusive to men. Women, there are women Doms as well, female Doms as well. And I think it's important to hear that it's not about just taking out your dominant personality on someone. How you worded it earlier literally is like, I'm providing for someone else. And I just want to have that said so that people can hear it's actually about the other person. You get your joy, you get your satisfaction from helping the other. And I think that that's an important distinction to make, because it's not about what you can take, it's about what you can give. And the other thing I was going to say, so you're seeing it a lot, and you're getting it from, like, obviously your content is geared towards it, so you're attracting what you're putting out there, and you're getting it from both men and women. But in general, why do you think there's such a push and such a market right now for this space? And not even the BDSM, but like the daddy, the pleasure dom, like these fantasy ideas that maybe some people haven't explored yet, but we're seeing it all over the internet, and you're getting like sought out specifically for that energy.
Yeah, I just think there's a shift in culture, right? I think there's a shift in the dynamic. For so many years, like, people were very just like, we're gonna have a family, or we're gonna have a relationship, and it's gonna be this, and it's gonna be that, and we're just gonna have it's gonna be very, you know. There's always been kink. Kink has always been around. It's been around for many, many, many years, right? But I think with nowadays, I think people are with, it's the opinions and the openness that it's the opinions and the openness that people are exploring and putting out on social media, and people are going, oh, like, people are actually like talking about this stuff. People are actually like, you know, they're explaining and giving detail about things that are related to kink, and they're giving free advice on it. And I'm not the only one that has like these desires in this space. Like, oh, okay, I can connect with these other people. Like, I can actually have conversations. I can ask questions. I can explore, right? I can go, like, be part of something that like I'm curious in, right? And I think that all it takes is like, all it takes is just trying out, right? Because some people might go, you know what? I'm curious about kink. I'm curious about the Dom subspace. Am I a Dom? Am I a sub? Am I a switch? Right? Do I like both? Right? And do I like both? Do I lean more to one than to the other? Because there's some people who are like, they're full DOMs. They can't do anything else. There's people that are full subs. They literally cannot DOM whatsoever. And there's people in the middle. There's people in the middle who like they love to give, and they also love to receive as well. So I just think that there's more people. I think there's more people talking about it. And to be honest, like most of the like all the stuff I post about it online has a lot of times, like my first started posting about it probably 4 or 5 months ago. It was kind of out of the context of like, I'm going to post this stuff because I think it's fun. I think it's fun. I also think it's funny. I also think it's relatable as well, because it's things that like, like one of my videos was like, here are three phrases to say as a dom. And those are things that I've actually said, right? Those are things that I've actually done, but I'm going to make it like more direct, right? I'm just going to make it like, so people can latch on and be like, oh, like, do I like this? People see it and they'd be like, wait, do I actually like this? Do I like
wait, why did I just get wet?
Wait a second.
Yeah.
Why am I getting butterflies from some guy who was just saying some random stuff on Instagram, right? It's the same thing. Like, it's the same thing if you're watching a video on Instagram and it's like, I don't know, like someone saving a puppy from a river, you like might get emotional, right? Or someone posts something about something sad, you might get emotional. It's the same thing when you see that like side of someone talking about, you're like, wow, like that was pretty hot, right? Like that was enjoyable. Like I want to know more about it. And then just slowly like learning more and like exploring and maybe trying it out too. So I think that's kind of where and why that people are actually like starting to become more into it and more curious about it as well. So, and to be honest, like just to be fully transparent with you, like I told earlier, like I'm not some top 10, like, or some level 10, like expert on all this stuff. I have just, I talk about the stuff I've experienced. I talk about the stuff that I have enjoyed and what things that have worked for me and the things that don't work for me. And yeah, that's it. And it's just all about is just you have to take action on some of these things that you are curious about. Like if you are curious about like, I want to try being a dom, like whether you're a male or female, right? Whatever, who you are as a human, like I want to try being a dom. And if you don't have a partner, right, then maybe you go join some type of group or community who preaches that, or you like go out there and you meet people either through like some type of dating apps or kink related apps, or just out and go connect with people out in the wild, I like to say. And you're open and honest about this stuff. I'm not saying like go out in public, say someone like, hey, you're hot, do you want to come over so I can dom you, right? That's not what I'm saying. Like there has to be, like we talked about earlier, some type of connection there. But I think people that are already in relationships, like maybe trying things, and it's not just about people, because I think a lot of people think about kink as like whips, like you said earlier, whips and chains, and that's not it. Whips, ball gags, chains, blindfolds, ropes. A lot of people think that's what kink is. That's what,
and it can be. It can be.
It's part of it. It's part of it. It's part
for some people.
But I think more or less for me, this is my own personal experience. I think kink is more about the pure honesty, the pure communication, the pure just trust, and trying things like for example, like if I tell someone like, okay, like are you ready for that? Are you ready for me to like dom you? Is this okay? Okay, then just tell them like, hey, like I want you to know that like I'm here if there's anything that you're not enjoying, like, tell me. Okay. Like, are we good? I was like, okay, ready? Like, are you, and then getting into getting in that mode of like, you know, like, you're being so fucking good right now, you know, and like saying it in the, you can't just like go into a room with someone and be like, oh, they, you know, they like, oh, look at them and be like, oh, you're so good right now. It's like, okay, like there has to be some kind of play into it, you know. I mean, and that's where like I'll like toy around with, like, if I'm just texting somebody, or if I'm, you know, around, like if I'm like at dinner with somebody, or if I'm, you know, in a safe space with somebody, maybe like at my household or whatever, like, you know, toying, like just playing around with a little bit like verbal cues and stuff like that, that might, like, you know, one, they're kind of funny, but they're also like, if it's a turn on, or if it's an excitement point for, you know, that person, then that could lead into something exciting and something fun. So, but, and I know I'm kind of ranting right now. Whenever I get like some sort of like hint or kind of like runway, I sometimes will break off and kind of talk about different stuff. But I think it's also kind of important that people understand that it's, like I said earlier, it's not just a one size fits all. And we can even talk about like some of the basic things to kind of maybe start with as well when it comes to trying kink and sub dynamics, or dom sub, just kink dynamics as a whole. So that's kind of where, you know, just to kind of give people like maybe like where do they start? You know, maybe you can start by saying that too, like where did you start, I guess, in this time and your time frame of kink, I guess.
Yeah, it's a great place to go. Similarly to you, and I think a lot of people, it started in a relationship for me, and then exploring outside of the monotony. So we would watch certain videos, and I would start to notice, this is back in my 20s, and I would just start to notice things, right? Like, like that's a lot, but also at the same time, interesting to me, right? And so the littlest things, and I think a lot of people participate in kink without naming it, and that's what I did for years with partners, right? Like, I didn't have a specific name for what bondage was or sensory deprivation, but did we like use a blindfold at times? Did we tie, use handcuffs, or like tie my hands up or whatever? Yes. And so you start to realize like what's attractive to you, or what gets you going in different ways. Like, even from a sensory deprivation point, I've been single for quite a bit, but like these headphones, for example, complete sensory deprivation. So I've literally used these, but I'm by myself because they tune everything out. And that was a new thing that I unlocked like in the last several months, where I'm like, oh my gosh, how cool. Like, who knew? So it's just trying all these little things. And then you meet some people who have different experiences, and then they maybe introduce something new. So like floggers or paddles, things that like create physical sensation. And then you just explore. And then one of the other ways that I really expanded my interest and curiosity was through using Field, which was, you mentioned there's apps and groups and all these things. So Field is it's a dating app for people it's really for the lifestyle, which is swingers and like poly, but there's also an element of like kink and BDSM. And I want to be clear, because I've had my last guest is both poly and BDSM and dom and kink, but you do not have to be both. I am monogamous, and I also enjoy this lifestyle. So
and I was just about to say that too, that like, I think one big thing that people don't understand is they think that like, oh, only people that are in open relationships, only people that are swingers, and only people that are poly do kink. It's like,
yeah.
No, that's not true at all, right?
Or like freaks, like sexual freaks. Like you have to be a sexual freak and like different to be into this.
Something has like a lot of people say, something has to be wrong with you to enjoy kink, right? It's like, no, something has to be right with you to enjoy kink. And I think that's the biggest thing. Like, for people that are watching this, like, you have to understand, You don't need to be in an open relationship. You don't need to be poly. You don't need to be any type of way, like stereotype or anything, whatever, to enjoy kink. You don't. Like, you really don't, you know? And going off, like, you know, what you just said, and also my experience too, like, the simplest way is I love when people call me daddy. Like, I think when there's a form of, like, that's me, like, enjoying, like, whether it's just like people online or whether it's like my partner, you know, my true partner, like, calling me daddy, it's a form of, like, they care about me, right? They care about me. There's a form of respect. There's a form of connection there. And I love that. Like, I love, like, to my core, I, like, love that. Right. And I think that's just one of my kinks. Like, I like to be called daddy. Right. And, like, people ask, like, well, who is a daddy? What is a daddy? It's like, I think it's maybe someone that might be a more dominant figure, someone that can more or less kind of take control of things, someone who, like, can lead the way as well. But also, like, if you think about it to, like, the dynamic of, like, if you think about it to the dynamic of the word daddy, it's basically like someone who is a provider, someone who is, like, people kind of go to them, or people look at them as, like, someone who is a leader, but also someone who cares as well, a caring figure, you know, like, I remember actually one of the first times I first started seeing, like, daddy being said a lot is one of my cousins. When I was like 20, 21, I would hang out with him and his wife all the time, and they didn't have kids yet, but literally all the time, his wife, my cousin, would call my other cousin, like, daddy all the time. And I don't even think it was like a kink thing. I think it was just like it was just naturally, like, she was basically saying it as a way of, like, you're my man, and you are a provider, and you are loving, and you are caring, and you are just a genuine, like, I see it, instead of just calling them by their name or calling them by babe, like, name or babe, like, daddy is like, ooh, like, that's just like, that's
it's
just
like poppy.
Yeah.
Like, you know, it's like in that culture that doesn't become over sexualized, right?
Yeah.
Like in Hispanic culture, it's like poppy is just a term of endearment.
So, and some people just say it to say it, right? Which is okay. But I think for me, I see it as, like, that, as much as it doesn't look like and sound like kink, that is part of kink, right? That is part of, like, name calling is part of the kink culture, and it doesn't involve whips and chains. It's just the communication part, which is, I think, is so beautiful, right? So, and that's kind of where I started, right? That's where I started, and is just starting with just words, starting with, like, you know, like, good girl, good boy, like my princess, my prince, my king, like, daddy, mommy, like, all these things I think are a good, like, entry level into kink, right? I think that's and that's where I started, and that's where, like, it still kind of ventures with today. And it's what I enjoy, you know. I enjoy the names, I enjoy the teasing aspect of it, you know. Like, I enjoy saying things like, you know, daddy's going to take care of you, you know, like, and it's just, it's I don't know. It's just like, it's like, it feels good, right? There's like a sense of, like, the reason I say it, the reason I love to hear it is because it, like, feels good inside. It makes me happy, right? Because anyone can call anyone babe, anyone can call anyone dear, right? And those are great. Those are amazing. Like, those are words of endearment, words of, like, you know, this is like, hey babe, or hey dear, hey my love, right? And those are all amazing, right? But I think to even push it a little bit more, mommy, daddy, princess, king, queen, like, those kind of, you know. And then if you want to go into, like, more deeper stuff, like, if you want to go more into the venture of, like, actually, like, bring it to, like, a sexual experience, like, you know, you can say things like, you know, which is one thing I talked about on the last podcast I was on, is when you're with somebody and you're like, you're a dom with a sub and you want to like show almost words of ownership and words of like dirtiness, but ownership, like calling your partner a slut, but not just going like, hey, like you're such a slut. Like, hey, you're my slut, right? Adding that like ownership of like, you're mine. Like that, I would say is like the next step with communication in the bedroom. Like, oh, like you're my little slut, right? You're my daddy, right? Those things like bring more connection and bring more, I would say just they add another level to like the kink communication when you are, connecting with somebody, sexually or non-sexually. So.
Yeah. I also, what's coming up for me around this as well is there's just so much nuance to all of this, because a lot of people will use the kink space or a lot of the things that you're even describing to, in a sense of healing, in a way to work through stuff. Like a lot of our love maps and the way that we behave sexually or repress sexually as adults, like how you said, it's not something wrong with you if you're interested in this, it's something right, because actually we all have desires, we all have needs. And if you aren't exploring them in any way, shape, or form, it doesn't have to be BDSM, but it's because you're not looking. So that is just to stress that bullet point. But a lot of people are able to healthily work through some stuff that like affirmations, right? Like words of affirmations is a love language.
Yeah.
So let's not demonize praise kink because it's the same shit, right? And it can be healthy if we don't demonize it because it's a sexual thing. Now that also leads into people who are either weaponizing or leaning way too heavily on this world to satisfy things, like if someone's parent treated them like shit, so then they look for a parent figure in an unhealthy, like validating way. Not healthy, right? Again, nuanced. But when I've used the term daddy, which like for me is very, very rare, I love how you speak about it because it is special. If I say that to someone, not everyone earns that title. I've dated men who didn't earn, that's not something, I loved them and that's not who they were. Like to call someone by that, it's like, it's very specific. You have a certain kind of energy. And for me, it has nothing to do with a relationship with my father. It doesn't even cross my mind at all. And so, and like, even to think of it like that, which is going to be ironic for vanilla folks to hear this, but that's so dirty and gross to me, for me. Then that sounds judgmental. And that's whatever. Some people might like that crossover of like, I have daddy issues and that's why I call my man daddy. That's just not me. For me, it's gross to think about like anything to do with my father, like in that sense. It has nothing to do with that. It has everything to do with, like you said, it's like, it's a vibe. I cannot explain. The first time I heard that used, I was laughing. I'm like, ew, like that's disgusting. Like I'm never calling a man that. But then you like hear it in a different context and you hear it like by the right kind of person or the right energy. And you're like, oh, I see what you're saying. Like, this lands for me. And it is a term of endearment's not the right word for me with this, but respect, ownership. Someone who has the capacity, like I said earlier, to hold that space for me, where I can like give myself, all of myself to that person. Like that's to me what daddy dom is. Like the vibe is very specific and it could be very different for every person. Right. And that's another thing. So I know that brings almost more confusion and less clarity, but at the same time, it's just important for people listening to understand that it's nuanced. It's very nuanced and there is no one right way or wrong way. It's just something that you want to approach with, of course, like communication and trust for sure, but also a level of trying to understand yourself. Right. And knowing like where you're coming from, just like with anything. And I obviously I'm a coach, right? So I can't help but to shed light on some topics like this in a way that a coach would, because it's just my nature. And one of those things is like, every act or everything that happens is neutral, right? Like every event is neutral. So let's just use like socializing as an example. The act of socializing, going out and having some drinks with friends, that act is a neutral act. It's not, there's nothing to be demonized about it. It's not wrong. But you get to choose or like look at, why am I doing it? Am I doing it to distract myself? Am I doing it to numb myself? Am I doing it to avoid things I should be doing? Like going out and partying, so that I don't have to like look at other areas of my life that need work. Then it's a problem. Right. And then other people socialize because it brings community, because it makes them feel healthy, loved, and seen, because like it fills their social battery. And then they go home and they still do the other responsibilities they need to do. Right. So the act is neutral. How we handle it or approach it is how it affects or impacts like how it's impacting us. Same thing with this. Same thing with BDSM. Same thing with any kind of alternative open sexual lifestyle, poly, any of it, right? Like some people do weaponize it or like create an unhealthy psychological dynamic around it, and other people are using it in a way that's like could be healthy and healing and fulfilling. And so it's an important thing to note as well. Not to get too deep with it, but at the same time, I'm like, I know it's Rants with Ren, but it's also coaching with Renata. We find an intersection sometimes here. So that's where I'm at.
I think you just have to explore. You have to not be afraid to explore new desires for things you want, right? And I think that when people hide stuff, I think that's when cheating comes into play. I think that's when lying comes into play. And to be fully honest with you, Ren, it's like in my past relationships, did I lie? Of course I lied. I'm being 100% transparent with myself. I was a liar. But as I've kind of grown over the past, I would say even more recently, like even since my breakup, like 3 months ago, and even the couple months before that, like I've realized I'm like, to be the best version of yourself, you have to be honest with every action and everything that you do and say. You have to be fully transparent and honest, and you have to be the best version of yourself. Because when you lie to other people, the biggest thing you're doing is you're just lying to yourself, right? You're just lying.
Bingo. Doing an internship as a coach? Absolutely.
Yeah, you know what? I mean, I might. So
integrity is everything. It's everything. And the way that you show up, it is as like people be like, oh, like they're such a good friend. They're just not good with like, partners. They cheat and stuff. And I'm like, it's the same shit. If they're not trustworthy, that's the end of the sentence. It's not like, oh, they're not trustworthy with like girls that they're dating, but they're like a great friend to me. They're super. No, actually, sorry.
The saying that I've heard, I did like when I was like 21, 22, I did a personal development seminar. I went to a personal development seminar, and one of the things that they said that still hits me today, which I always try to just like bring full circle, is the way you do anything is the way you do everything.
Exactly.
Always, right? And that ties into your career, that ties into your friendships, that ties into like the way you experience life, that ties into your relationships, it ties into literally everything, right? And I think it literally all starts with like being 100% honest with yourself all the time. Like even if you're honest with yourself and it hurts, or even if you're honest with other people and it hurts, like you are going to be so much far better off than like trying to procure or trying to like create this little lie, or trying to like say, oh no, like whatever, and to yourself and to your partner. Like you have to be honest. You have to be honest. It's what will get you farther than trying to just like make up some little lie or whatever. So that, and then also communicating the honesty, right? Being honest, being open, being very, very transparent. And I think that ties in today with like connections that I make, is I I tell people like, hey, like, this is what I want right now. This is what I want, right? I think a lot of people, a lot of men and even women, they lie to people that they're interested in because they don't want to hurt their feelings. They're afraid that like, if they're honest with this person, that this person won't like me. If I'm honest with this person, I won't get this person to come home with me, right? But I've realized that like the more honest you are with somebody, the more like fully transparent, it literally just, it bleeds out all the other bullshit. And sometimes that, like being fully honest with somebody will bring that person and bring that individual, whatever it is, or those people, those connections, those groups, that business opportunity, it will just bring it to you if you are fully straightforward and fully like knowledgeable and fully aware of what you actually want. Like telling somebody, like if you're out on a date and you're like, you know what, I'm gonna be 100% honest with you. I'm like getting back in the game. I don't want a full committed relationship. I want to experience dating. I want to experience this to kind of get back in the game. And, you know, if I end up hooking up with somebody, like I tell you, like I am not looking for anything, right? You have to have those full, you have to have that full, like those desires kind of played out to where, so the other person can understand like, okay, you know, you're looking for this. Well, I'm looking for this. So unfortunately it's not going to work out. Okay. That's great. We are on the same, we like know what we want. It's not going to work out. That's totally fine. There's plenty of other people out there that you can connect with. Right. So be honest with yourself, communicate with yourself. If you have certain desires, like find a way to try them out, in a safe space, find a way to connect with people that you trust as well and that you respect. And yeah, and just try new things, get out there, explore, like have communication with people and learn new things too. Yeah, that's my 2 cents. And I just love, I think as I've grown, like a lot of my 20s were very like all my 20s and growing up in the last 10 plus years or so have been like there's a lot of times where I did lie to myself. Like I was very shut off. I was never vulnerable with people because I was afraid to like show my true self, right? With relationships and connections. And I think now with me being brutally honest about what I want and brutally honest about the things I'm looking for, then it just cuts out the bullshit and it goes straight to the things that are most valuable to me. So yeah, that's kind of, I guess that's like everything full circle for, I guess relationships, kink related stuff kind of all together. So
yeah, that is life of Dilly right there,
That's
like
it.
summarized, and also free coaching game for everybody out there. So no, I love it, and this has been a super super fun and interesting conversation. We're coming to an end, so we'll have to make another time to kind of get into some of the OnlyFans stuff. I'm sure people are very interested to hear about that. But for today, Dilly, I really, really appreciate you being here with us. And thank you so much for joining Rants with Ren.
Thanks for having me, Ren. I appreciate it. It's been fun. And I do look forward to the next one. I can literally talk. I can talk for hours. So I'm here for it. I appreciate it. I mean, this little session flew by, and I appreciate you for creating a space for, both of us to be open and honest and to be, just have a conversation where people can listen and people can kind of understand. Hopefully they can just take one little nugget from this and apply it to their life and, trying to, they take it and they go try out something new and maybe they'll enjoy it, whatever it may be. So,
yeah.
yeah.
Cheers.
Thanks.
All right.